Hi, and good morning to the first Technical Forti Friday of 2017. Today I'm going to do a run through of FortiOS 5.4. Apologies to those who are currently using it and sort of know the ins and outs. I was hoping to be able to give you an update on the new version of code, which is going to be 5.6. However, that's not come through to me yet, so probably on one of our next webinars we'll do an introduction to 5.6 when it's released and it's available to one and all. So as you can see from my screen here, there's quite a few changes to the front end of the FortiGate. So for starters, we have a new option called proxy or flow mode. So the difference between proxy and flow is that if you enable flow mode, then it does remove some of the functionality of the firewall. To change it from proxy to flow, we look at the inspection mode here and we select change. If you've got any profiles that are in flow mode, then those will be removed from your configuration. So in flow mode, if we enable flow mode on the firewall, which is probably something you might want to do if you're using a small sort of desktop unit, so a 30E or a 50E, you get the following functionality. So you get the AV, you get the web filtering, you get application control, you get the CASI feature, you get IPS, you get Forti client profiles, SSL inspection, and also the web override feature. However, you do lose the ability to enable the explicit web and FTP proxy and also the explicit proxy firewall rules, which goes hand in hand with that. So one of the major changes to FortiOS 5.4, it's all now part of what Fortinet class as the cooperative security fabric. I'll cover that in more detail as we go through the relevant screens, and I'll just let you know exactly what the fabric is and how other devices interconnect with the FortiGate device. So new options within the GUI refresh is we've got extra FortiView options, so we can look at things like threats, we can look at the threat map. So for example, the threat map shows you countries that are actually sending potential disruptive traffic to your FortiGate, and it will give you an indication down the bottom here of what that traffic is and where it's sourced from, and so on and so forth. As per the FortiView on 5.2, there are a couple of additional features. So for example, if we look at our source information here, we can now click the policy button and we can go to the exact policy within our firewall IPv4 policies. So for example, if we were troubleshooting and we were seeing traffic that we don't expect to be flowing through our firewall, we can click on the policy option, it takes us to the policy, it highlights that policy, and then we can amend the policy as and when we actually see fit to allow the specific type of traffic that we want to see, rather than allowing everything through. Another new option on the FortiView is the countries, so we can see which countries are the most popular that we've been hit. At the moment, a lot of sites we see like to block access to and from Russia for various reasons. And we can also block those countries within, obviously, our objects. We can do a geographical object, so we can say, right, okay, we want to block between specific countries. And this is purely an option to see where traffic is going. So again, this could be linked to a policy that's been configured incorrectly, and then we can locate that policy, and again, we can block or allow depending on our requirements. We can also change the theme. So if you don't like the standard green colour of the new GUI, we can go into the system. We can then go to the settings options here, and there are a number of different colour schemes that we can actually use. This isn't the standard. The standard, as I've said, is the green one. but all we need to do is we can select the relevant theme down here. Also, while we're on the system tab here, something of note is the security, the corporate security fabric. So on the security fabric, this is for if you're using, you might have a Forti sandbox, or you might have a Forti cloud, you might have a Forti cache, and so on and so forth. So if we have those options, basically what we do is we enable them in here. So we're basically telling the FortiGate device that yes, we do have a FortiMail device, and this is where it sits. Now, because we have a FortiMail device, if we've enabled an anti-spam profile within our policy, it means that we can point our anti-spam profile to an external device. So if we nip down to the security profiles here and select anti-spam, there's an option to send to an external device. So the external device is basically the FortiMail IP address that we've pre-configured within the cooperative security fabric, and rather than us scanning via the FortiGate, all traffic will be sent to the FortiMail for extensive AV and spam and spam scanning. Other options within the security profiles, as you may have seen, there's also a web application firewall, and this is by no means a full FortiWeb appliance. It is a cut down version, so if you have maybe 2 or 3 hosted web services within your internal network, then this is what that is essentially for. So we can again switch on various types of sensors. So we can say yes, we want to track for SQL injection, and if we see it, we want to block it, and so on and so forth. And again, you just apply that to your security profile as if you would with any other UTM profile that you want to configure. There is also the cloud access security inspection. So this is related to applications such as Dropbox, Google Docs, Yahoo Mail, and so on and so forth. You know, some businesses like to block access from their internal network to these applications. If we want to do that, then we can, or we can just monitor, and we can monitor the traffic that's going through. And if we think it's, you know, there's too much traffic going to, for example, Gmail and so on and so forth, then we can actually block that traffic and so on and so forth. Okay, a good point to note here is the Forti client profiles. Now, within 5.4, there was quite a major change to what you could actually configure and manage on a Forti client endpoint. So, as you may be able to see, or you've known from experience, the ability to be able to make changes to endpoints, so namely the VPN configuration. So, if you push the VPN down to your red devices using 5.2, then unfortunately you can't do that via 5.4. It requires a separate piece of software which is called FortiClient Enterprise Management Server. So the Enterprise Management Server is essentially a piece of software that runs on a Windows 2008 or 2012 server, and it is solely there for the management of client endpoints. So within the Enterprise Management Server, you get things like vulnerability scanning, you can create custom MSI files, you can push changes down for VPN configurations, whether it be SSL or IPsec. The Enterprise Management Server will also scan your edge devices for Microsoft vulnerabilities. So if it's either device that's missing either high or critical Microsoft updates, then that means that basically they're flagged on the EMS system, and you can push those updates down to the endpoint device at your leisure. So you can set it to run at a scheduled time and so on and so forth. If you don't want to use the enterprise management server for creating custom MSI files to push down to your various endpoints. The FortiClient tools is still available when you buy a valid FortiClient license for your FortiGate. So essentially, you could create a standard build VPN client, and as long as you don't want to change it on the fly, then you can just push those VPN settings down to your endpoint via GPO. Just another point of note that I missed out on the FortiView. If you're using a 1000D or above, there's actually a 7-day period that you can roll back, that you can go back to, looking for threats, etc., that have hit your network. So that's probably more down to the actual size of the hard disk within the appliance. So you've got more logging capability than you have on the lower end units. If we just now pop over to the policies, again, there's a few changes here. I'm sure those that have used this before on 5.4, if we want to make a change to a policy, it's a little bit cleaner, in so much as that if we say, right, okay, we want to select our source address, then we get the little sidebar here, and we can select either our addresses, a user, or particular device that we want to add to our source or destination addresses. Also, if it's a new destination that's not been pre-configured, so a new object, for example, then we can just click the Add button, we can select address, and then we can create a new object without having to go over to the far left-hand side here and select Create New Object, and so on and so forth. Back to the security profiles now. On the security profiles, there is also a new option which is called the Dns Filter. So basically, this is the same categories as the web filtering option. It tracks DNS, so it looks at DNS settings, and we can also block requests to known botnet and command and control sites. As you can see, there's a fairly high number of domains that is currently blocked by the botnet package. This is quite a good feature to enable both with your web filtering profile on your policy. Another point to add on the policy and objects, there's a little bit of a change to traffic shaping. So as with 5.2 and 5.0, if you want to do traffic shaping, that was held with, or you enabled it on the actual firewall policy itself. If you want to do that now, then you have to create the traffic shaping policy separate to your current IPv4 policy. It just makes it a little bit tidier and a little bit easier to manage. So what I'd like to do now is sort of open up the floor. So if you've got any questions that you would like to ask regarding 5.4, whether it's which version of 5.4 should I be using, and so on and so forth, then please feel free to ask any questions that you like. Anyone got any questions regarding upgrade paths? What boxes can I upgrade to 5.4? So for example, if you're running a 50E or a 60E, that box will only run 5.4. You can't downgrade it to 5.2. Okay, then I'd like to thank you all for joining this morning. The next Forti Friday update is going to be on FortiCloud. So that will be covering things like managing FortiGate and Forti wireless products and Forti Analyzer via the FortiCloud offering.